To start with, the Film Archive was a very humble organization, and Mr. P.K. Nair was the assistant curator when it was set up in 1964. Then along the line he became the curator, and then later he retired as the director of the archive.
When I started the archive in 60s, 64, 60, I looked around the first Indian films which were made by Dada P.K, and went to his house in Nasik, met his sons and daughters and talked to them and everything, and finally unearthed a lot of bits and pieces which was kept with the family in Nasik.
There are many legends which are associated with Mr. P.K. Nair. Like we know that the films of P.K, who is the father of Indian cinema, like he had to go to a village near Nasik and he had to travel by bullock cart over there to actually collect those reels. There are many other things, like he had to cross a river and there was no boatman, and he had to wait for a long time, and then the boatman was arranged, but he picked up those reels and brought them to NFA.
And that was how I started collecting. So I was looking back to the oldest period, the beginning of the cinema, and tried to find out how many of those films are still lying around, so that we can acquire it for the archive and preserve it in proper terms. But unfortunately, the P.K material, we got it because the family took care of it. But later filmmakers we could not collect because they were all destroyed, and the companies have gone into liquidation. But somehow whatever was available, bits and pieces, even incomplete films, there was great filmmaking in Kolhapur at that time in the 20s in India, the Maharashtra Film Company. And I went to Kolhapur, searched around, and could not get much films. But whatever I got, some of them were in pretty bad shape. Even the P.K film, which we got from Nasik, one film called Kaliya Mardan, made in 1919. Immediately when I brought it to Pune, I cleaned it and everything, made a dupe and made another copy. And so I tried my level best to find out. But India is a vast country, one old film I got from virtually a cowshed in Calcutta. In the suburb of Calcutta, a film made in the 40s, a Hindi film made in Calcutta. It was virtually, the raindrops were falling on it, and the next, the cow was standing. So that fellow said, there is some old films lying in the shed, if you want, you can have a look at it. That's how we found some of the films. Some of the films we got from abroad. My colleague of the Bangkok archive, the Thai archive, is a very good friend of mine. He has the same kind of passion too. And he wrote to me, I went to an old theatre in Bangkok and went to the projection cabin and found in the corner 2 reels were lying. I went and looked at it, and from the title he wrote to me, it's an Indian film, because the title was Sati Suganya. Then I checked our catalogue and found out that we have made a film in 1926 by the same title. And he asked me whether you want it. I said, please, it was nitrate film. And somehow they managed to send it through the Thai embassy in India. And finally we got it, and immediately he said, please send me a copy after you make a dupe and safety print, So immediately sent him a copy, 2 reel. But it's a 4 reel film, which we got only 2 reels. Something is missing in. Even Bangladesh somehow had Devadas, the Bengali version. Originally in 1935, Barua made originally in Bengali and then simultaneously in Hindi and later in Tamil. So we have only the Hindi version in the archive. The Bengali version we still don't have, but that is there in the Bangladesh archive. I saw it. Pakistan also, we still not got a cultural exchange, in terms of, But all the films, prints which were lying in Pakistan went to Dubai and later to England.
So it's safe
So I don't think, all of them have been video. The people holding it, they somehow smuggled it out and they managed to take video copies, now DVDs of those films. So at least we managed to get the DVDs. My meeting with Longbo was in 70s. And I remember I carried a catalog of our collection, my personal catalog with me, and I gave it to him that these are the films which we collected so far. That was 1970. And then he went through about 10, 12 pages of that catalog and just counted whatever he tick marked. Yeah, good. You have, what he said, you have about 30, 40 films made before 1940. So he was, according to him, the oldest films which an archive has is the real strength of the archive, not the contemporary. So he was counting the Indian films which we have managed to get made before 1940, So he was happy, you have 30, 40 films. So he said, you have done a good job, No, I was really amazed at this man's concept of an archive, So this is, I learned a great deal from him. You must concentrate our energy and, budget and everything for collecting the things which are on the verge of vanishing. Not the last year's films or the last decade's films, Otherwise there is no point, I think, actually the FTA was in its highest thing during the when Ritwik Ghatak was there, people like Kumar Sani were students and Vani Kaul, Adur Gopal Krishan. The first 2 decades of the Film Institute I know very well, very close, because all the students used to interact with me and the teachers, and they have tremendous interest in knowing more about cinema. And they come to the archive library, watch films, interact with me. So, but by and large, the institute is geared to a kind of providing employment for the film industry, which was not the objective of the Film Institute. Okay, economic conditions make it, but then, if you don't provide the ambience to develop creativity in a young talent. For example, a script writing course they have designed is only to write scripts suitable for Bollywood. I felt very, very upset when a student coming from Assam or from Kerala, why should he be forced to write a script for the Bollywood? Which is doesn't make any sense. A national institute, this is the policy. I totally disagree with the policy followed by the present day authorities. Because they're all going after money. The government said, we can't give you money, you must be self-supporting. That doesn't mean then you're no better than any private roadside institute. Private institutes are charging lakhs of money from their students and training them only to make the Bombay type of films. So that is a problem with the last 2 decades or 3 decades. No individual talent has come out, who can create, who can has an impact on the film scene. Then it is a very sad state of it. I hope some serious thinking will take place, all because of this terrible market-oriented outlook, which has eroded our thinking. Both the organizers and the government, if you reduce your education to that kind of low level, then I don't think we can we can even spot talents. The festival is a good opportunity for the general audience to see world cinema, because otherwise what they see is the local language films, mostly maybe the imported films, mostly the American films. They hardly see any films subtitles in the theaters. It has to be dubbed, and only those commercially designed films will come into the theaters. You don't get to see a film from a country like Mozambique or Chile, or for that matter from Algiers, or Bosnia or Croatia. This is the festival is the only opportunity for them to open up their opportunity to see the best of world cinema. So I'm glad the Kerala audience are becoming more and more aware, and I'm talking of the general audience, the lay audience. The film society audience already are exposed to some extent, but the strength of this festival in Kerala, personally I feel the lay audience, that is a common man, is getting interested in world cinema, coming to attend all the films. And if this thing can continue, I'm sure it will have an impact on the quality of films made in this region. Now the filmmakers cannot keep on fooling them, giving the same stuff. They are aware that at least in all over India, Kerala is the most discriminating audience, and you can't keep on fooling them around. So ultimately the aim of the festival is to create an audience who can discriminate something genuine and something which is bogus. And ultimately it will have an impact on the production of the regional cinema, that is the Malayalam cinema. And Kerala is a highly passionately involved in filmmaking. Every second man I meet on the street wants to make a film. For example, today I saw Kim Kudu's latest film. It's no match to the earlier films. Somehow I think what happened to him. The earlier films were so original and so, now I find that this is what happens to most of our filmmakers from developing countries, or, new Asian countries, or, first one or two films are wonderful. Then all of a sudden they become, when big money comes with strings attached, and they lose their identity. It has happened to Chinese filmmakers, it has happened to Chen Kaige, it has happened to Zhang Yimou, it has happened to, I don't know about Xiang Mianling. But somehow if they have, I find sometimes giving them too much of budget and everything at a platter sometimes spoils their identity. They cater to the world market instead of their local, things in which they are very rooted in. I think it's very dangerous. If you lose an identity and become a part of the mainstream, it is happening because of the globalization and the marketing thing. It has happened in Iran. What is Makulbab doing now? He's staying in Paris with some international European money to make films for their market. It has happened. The whole of East Europe has gone. And so I think sometimes I feel, okay, they're making smart films, no doubt, it's all for the market. But individual talent, is something, which there should be a situation in which money should be given to an artist. If you believe he's an artist, come on, let him do whatever he wants to do. Don't keep on peeping over the shoulder. What are you doing? Why do you do like this, like this? I mean, if you have trust in, that is why Mani has not made a film. Kumar has not made a film. So you are creating a very, very, very unfortunate situation for a creative filmmaker, not giving the infrastructure or the backing to make the kind of films. If you are interfering with that kind of filmmakers, you can't expect them to toe your line. Please allow them to make the films they want to make. Then only great films will come out.